until we get there, until we get to all the good talks and the information I'm going to share, I want to hand things over. If you're ready, Chris, I want to hand things over to our Chief Information Officer and Vice President of IT, Chris Manriquez, to give us some inspirational opening remarks. I always am very appreciative of Chris because of his background and his support of these technologies on our campus. It makes my life much easier than some of my colleagues. So without further ado, I'll hand it off to you, Chris, and thank you so much for being here to give us these remarks.
Excellent. Thank you, Michael. And welcome everybody on behalf of the president as well as the university's executive cabinet. I want to welcome you here today. This is our, I believe, fourth annual GIS Day event at Dominguez Hills. So we're always proud to host this, in specific for our students who actually get to hear about some of the latest things happening, as well as share some of the things that they do in the classroom. We're really excited about having that happen. And I see we have a number of people joining us today online, which is really excellent because I know you have a series of choices on things to do every single day. But today in particular is really special. Not only does today make me feel a little gentrified, because today is the 25th anniversary of the first GIS day that occurred in 1999. And that's when Ralph Nader and Jack Dangerman more or less sponsored the first one in DC. And they said, we need to get together and put something on about geographic thought and spatial thought. How can we bring this to the fore in the United States and then eventually globally to start thinking in this sort of space? So they started up the GIS Day. And, you know, who knew that it would turn into what it is now, which is literally a global event occurring all over the place in many different locations, arranging in different types, as well as different things that are displayed. So back then, I mean, and yes, I'm going to admit it, I'm old enough to actually have celebrated GIS back then in 99 as a practitioner. We dreamed of certain things that are now available today, right? Things that we say to ourselves like readily available geographic libraries. Back then we had to code those. We were doing points and clicks on maps to build those base maps, one by one to put them in to do that individually, right? Images like we have in GeoAI today. Those sort of things were dreams we had. Wouldn't it be great if there was a way for the computer to actually layer across stuff with workflows, perform the heavy lifts of joining, aggregation, calculation, all of those things to build those models, that we wouldn't have to do that. And we could actually do the analysis and the human creative side of like adding on or looking at it, taking a different perspective. And how do we go this different direction rather than the heavy lift of the manual work? And today, lo and behold, this sort of thing exists, right? All coming from the deep caverns of those of us that worked in GIS back in the day as dreams. And then the last one was, you know, moving in the United States in particular, GIS to the fore. One of the things that really got put to the fore so that we could see it was standing up a federal agency that became the National Geospatial Agency, right? And that always existed as part of like Landsat. But never did anything exist like we do now, where you can go and pull down information straight off a website and be able to utilize some of that information in a way that's consistently rendered and updated, you know, and a little bit generalized because they don't want to get you down to the individual millimeter level, but it's generalized and you can look at it and it's updated on a known basis. These kind of things that we take for granted today were not possibilities or not realities that existed in 99. 99 was a whole different day. The last thing I'll say, because my team reminds me all the time, Chris, you know, we really are giving you 5 to 7 minutes. You got to keep this within the time frame. We've got a lot of good stuff today. So the last thing I'm going to say here before I hand you back to Mike is for students in particular and practitioners today in particular, we're only scratching the surface of what GIS is doing, right? We've now got these tools available, which are the first level of leveraging compute into complexity to start leveraging what the human being is capable of. As we start looking at things and saying at the next level, what kind of things can we begin to spatially express that GIS gives us the capability to do as we compress calculation and algorithm models to say that's the back end to add to our workflows. Never are we going to remove the human being from the process because you lose that creative layer. But in reality, it's basically taking the workflow and saying, we're starting with this. GIS has the mechanism. We're always going to add to that component, remove some of the labor on that in our workflow in order to keep us on the creative side, and then continue to feed into that build that we've got to continue to move forward. In a different way, I'm going to say it this way. The things that we do in GIS go down to a DNA level, to the microbe, all the way up to examining stars as they're laid out in space, quite literally. I've done activities in both of those back in my history in being GIS before I was a CIO. That range is fully complete in GIS. You can do those at each one of those scales. The future for people who are practicing GIS continues to be just as bright as examining those stars, because the places we're seeing GIS be applied only continues to grow. And as we continue to see those tool growths and see an expansion, we're going to continue to see that growth happen in industry, in the ways we practice, and how we relate to one another as well. And so how things can happen as we relate to our urbanized communities, our rural communities, and other spaces we operate in. So with that, I'll go ahead and stop and say thank you very much for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you on campus and around campus, and working with Mike as we move forward with some of the tool sets that he's got to offer you. So welcome, GIS Day 2024 on the 25th anniversary, and it's been good seeing you all. Mike, take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chris. I really appreciate you being here and giving us those remarks and offering some perspective on how these things have evolved. And it makes me feel you've got even a little wider perspective than me, but it's, I'm probably not that far behind you. So I really appreciate that. And I know I was part of a little bit after you, where I didn't have to code as much, and now I'm worried about my job. So now it's become really easy, which is very cool and very accessible for all the newbies coming on. So very good stuff. Thank you so much.
Excellent. All right.
I am going to, as we're moving forward here with our first speaker, I am going to launch a poll. We like to get a sense of who our audience is and what their needs are and how they're utilizing these things. So if you could, excuse me, please fill in the poll and let us know who our audience is today. Again, we've been doing this for a few years, and it's always good to kind of see how things are evolving and if things are changing or if they're staying the same. Either way, it's all good information and it's helpful for us. So as we're getting close here to approaching the end, I am going to hand things over to our first speaker. I need to make sure my settings are set here. Our first speaker is Nestor Garza Puentes. He is an assistant professor in the College of Business Administration and Public Policy. He's come up with some really cool stuff that he uses GIS for. And my understanding is he's going to be talking about land concentration and food insecurity, and specifically in Colombia. So with that, I will hand it over to Nestor and take it away, sir.
All right, thank you very much. Can I share my screen now?
You should be able to share. If not, let me know and I will work on fixing that.
Can everybody see my slides?
Go.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So let's begin. Well, as informed, my name is Nestor Garza. I'm faculty here in the College of Business. This presentation that I have here is a paper I have written with these colleagues from Universidad Industrial de Santander in Colombia. I'm not sure if they are here today. I invited them. I'm not sure if they're connected. What I'm going to highlight here today with you, and I think I have 20 minutes. I have until 11:05 if I'm not wrong, is the way I use GIS to perform social science research in this case. All right? So let's begin. Because I am fundamentally a user of GIS, not a developer of GIS. Michael has seen, and I am becoming kind of a regular in these events. Thank you, Michael. What I do is I operate between two softwares. A GIS software, for example, ArcGIS or QGIS, and a programming software to perform econometrics, regression analysis. Could be MATLAB, could be R. And what I do is I move between them. On the GIS side, I create the borderlines between different geographical entities, which become special relationships in my regression environment. So the topic as such can be summarized with this abstract. Essentially, we're going to analyze the relationship between land inequality or land concentration and food insecurity in Colombia during the period 2000-2015. And what I want to find is the direct impact of land inequality on food insecurity, besides its indirect impact, because it's already having an impact through its effect on general inequality and poverty. But we don't want that. We want the direct impact besides the effect on inequality, on general inequality and poverty. To do that, I use what we call spatially controlled estimation. What is a spatially controlled estimation? That in order for the regression to not produce biased estimators, I need to control the degree of spatial geographical association between the spatial units. The spatial units in my case are departamentos, which are the subnational administrative units. With this type of analysis, I'm going to be able to verify that significance and the direction of causality between those two variables. And finally, taking into account that I find the direct impact of land inequality on food insecurity, I can advocate for direct policy measures that directly address land inequality, not just as a determinant of general equality, not just as a determinant of poverty, but as a determinant of food insecurity. So I offer here a little bit of a history of land inequality or land concentration in Colombia. It goes back all the way to the colonial period, and more recently to the 19th century, when the socioeconomic structures of the nation were determined. There were two attempts at changing that situation, two land reforms, one in 1930, one in 1961. Those reforms have never managed to change the land concentration landscape in the country. Quite the opposite. Those reforms are at the core of the internal conflict that has ravaged this country for decades at this point. And finally, since the 1970s, there's been a change in policy, particularly toward the logic of neoliberal ideology, and also the emergence of paramilitary and drug cartels, which have actually worsened land inequality, land concentration. Now, what is the data I fundamentally use in this research? The data on food insecurity comes from the National Family Wellbeing Institute, ICBF. This institution performs surveys every 5 years. These surveys are statistically representative at the level of departamento, the spatial unit that I am using. And they were performed in the years 2005, 10, and 15. So that is why I'm focusing on the connection between the variables in the years 2005, 10, and 15. And essentially, the survey has 15 questions. If at least one question is answered positively, it means that household is in a condition of household insecurity with some degree of food insecurity. The data on land ownership is extracted from Atlas on land ownership in the country. They were originally created by the National Geographic Institute in 2012. They don't contain all the years, but they contain at least the years 2005 and 2010. And the year 2015 is extracted from this Agricultural Planning Unit, UPRA. What they did is continue the Atlas from the National Geographic Institute. So I collect those two fundamental pieces of information, and I can represent them, for example, here. What we have here is the Gini, which is a measure or a measurement of land inequality, of land concentration, at the level of the departamento in 3 different years. Essentially, the thing to observe here is that the inequality in land ownership has been extremely high in the 3 years under survey. And this is due to historical reasons. This is how it has been for decades or even centuries, owing to the colonial and 19th century structures of land ownership that determine essentially the socioeconomic characteristics of this country. Now, the land inequality has been worsening, and let me perhaps signal where it has been worsening. It has been worsening in areas that originally were not that concentrated. Here in the Pacific region, and here towards the Orinoco, towards the Amazon basin. Normally, the highest land concentration has been here in the Andean region and here in the Caribbean region, which still show high levels of inequality up to today. It's just that the Pacific region has increased inequality even more. Now, on the other end, we have the food insecurity. Notice that the food insecurity tends to be more predominant here on the Caribbean in any of the years under analysis, but also here on the Orinoco Basin and on the Pacific in any of the years under analysis. That food insecurity tend to be lower here in the central departamentos, in the center of the country, because these central departamentos tend to have a higher income level, a higher level of economic development. In this slide, we show these departamentos in the context of the natural regions where they are located. Colombia has 5 natural regions, let's try and signal. The Caribbean region facing the Caribbean Sea, the Pacific coast, the Andean region, which is where most of the population is located in the larger cities and the highest level of economic development. And they have, with this eastern side of the country, which is almost uninhabited, including the Orinoco Plains and the Amazon jungle. Now, as you could see, the structure of land inequality is kind of spatially correlated, has a clear geographical distribution, while the structure of the food insecurity is a bit more spatially random, or located anywhere. In order to disentangle the relationship, then I implemented an identification strategy. I'm going to relate the level of Gini in the land distribution here as a determinant of food insecurity. This type of estimation is called system. System means that we have equations that are connected, in this case, connected via the land inequality. Both equations have time controls, and both equations are spatially controlled. Spatial control is this that I'm signaling right now, this rho W, rho W. What does it mean, rho W? I'm going to detect if there is a relationship that goes from land concentration, as measured by Gini index, into food insecurity, controlling the fact that both land inequality and food insecurity, each one of them has a spatial distribution, this one that I'm signaling, already determining. So it is, if in addition to the spatial structure, which in the case of land inequality is very clear, and in addition to the time determinant, the time passing time, the variable land inequality still determines food insecurity, then we say that we have found a relationship of causality because the estimation is performed simultaneously. When we perform this type of a regression, the regressions don't have an order in the way the computer takes them. They're performed by maximum likelihood. It's numerical derivatives. You give them values. The machine starts giving values so that you minimize the value of the residuals in the regression. If you cannot find any more changes to the residual in the regression, the machine stops there. That's why the direction of causality can go in any direction, from 1 to 2 or from 2 to 1. And then in the end, when the regression is performed, we evaluate its degree of spatial correlation. Because it, oops, sorry. I don't know what to come back. There it is. Because in theory, what we're doing is trying to control the degree of spatial correlation between the variables, which is what biases the corresponding estimators. And here we have the results. The first kind of important element that I would like you to take into account is that I use 3 possible types of spatial relationships. Contiguity, by the fact that 2 departamentos simply have borders between them. By threshold, which means that we take into account certain average distance between departamentos because some of them are smaller than others, and inverse distance, a variable that has a continuous decrease as you get further away between 2 different departamentos. This regression number 1 is the regression for the Gini index. The first thing to notice here is that what I'm trying to do is to control time, create the variable Gini, the Gini index of inequality, and then that variable impacts here in this second equation is the one that is going to determine the food insecurity. The food insecurity, notice, is never controlled by its own spatial structure. It means the food insecurity does not have a clear spatial structure, while the Gini does, at least here, with contiguity and inverse distance matrices. Then, once again, we control the time structure, the time change, dummy of the year 2015, dummy of the year 2010 and 15. And in all the cases, here, here, and here, the land inequality always determines the food insecurity. Now, we offer a contrasting case, pure OLS regression, the most simple linear regression. In that case, the Gini does not predict the food insecurity. But in that case, as we can see here, we're never controlling for space because it's impossible to control for geographical association in the context of linear regression. In the context of linear regression, you cannot have residuals that are spatially correlated. How do we verify that we have correctly corrected the residuals that the residuals are not spatially correlated? Sorry. Because of this, notice here the test. The only case in which the variables are spatially correlated are in the OLS case. In all the cases with the spatial control, these 3 cases here, it's not working now. Come on. well, it's not working for me, but down here, now we could. Notice that it's never significant the spatial correlation between the residuals in any of the cases where we use spatial matrices. So in other words, we need system estimation because we need to find the relation of causality so that it doesn't go from equation 2 to 1, but from equation 1 to 2. And 2, we need to control for the spatial correlation. And to control for the spatial correlation, we build upon these maps, these schemes, and we create 3 types of matrices that summarize the borders between departamentos. Using any one of them, we always corrected a spatial correlation down here in our test for the completion of the system estimation. What we're trying to say is that applying the correct methods that one required to correct for a spatial correlation, we have found always, in all the cases, a clear and positive impact of land concentration on food insecurity. And remember, that food insecurity also includes, or that relationship has been controlled by a series of variables, these variables here, or these variables here, which have been stepwise selected to determine the variable. We create a ceteris paribus context where we want to reject the relationship, and still we don't manage to reject the relationship, meaning we are onto something. We are detecting a direct relationship between Gini inequality in land ownership versus food insecurity. What we have been doing is correcting for endogeneity between the two equations, and by the spatial structure of the land concentration that is quite clear from the maps we were seeing above. And the kind of a general take that you can take from this analysis is the current situation that is happening in this country. For example, the existence of large landholding latifundia, is the Spanish name for that, latifundia, has been a fundamental driver of all the socioeconomic issues that this country faces today, but not just that. We have found one more issue that wasn't analyzed in the literature before, which is its direct relationship with food insecurity. And it could be through a series of effects that we cannot disentangle with the information we have. For example, if farmlands and forests are replaced by extensive grassland cattle ranching, which is clearly associated with land concentration, or agribusiness for exportation, let's say sugarcane, or palm tree oil. In those cases, food production decreases, increasing food insecurity and directly being related to the degree of land concentration. And these food insecurity determinants are also finally identified in many other cases in other parts of the world. It's just that in Colombia, the impact might be disproportionate because of its high degree of land concentration and the clear spatial distribution of that land concentration. All right? I think that's basically all I had this is all I had to tell you today. Thank you very much for the opportunity. If you have any question, please tell me. I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nestor. That was awesome. I love hearing what you have going on all the time. Yeah, I had a couple questions, but I'll save those for when we have more time to ask you personally. But if anybody else has questions, feel free to unmute and ask the question real quick. We have a couple minutes.
This is one of the reasons I love these sessions so much, right? Like, when do I get to ask questions like this? When do I ever even get to think about things like this? So I commented, Dr. Garza, right? The idea that we can actually predict and simulate like environmental scenarios and make decisions based on using this stuff. Of course, I get to think about the tools and the ways that you do this a lot in my work. You mentioned R, you mentioned, I think, MATLAB. Could you talk a little, because I also saw maybe a little SPSS in there, right? Could you talk about, no SPSS? Okay, so what are the other tools that, like, somebody who wants to think about doing this type of work and modeling for these scenarios, what are some of the other tools that you actually used to create these incredible visuals and the study itself?
Right. About 10 years ago, for example, I was using QGIS, an open source GIS, in association with MATLAB, because the institution where I worked had MATLAB. MATLAB is a mathematics software, but I use it to perform statistical analysis. It's called a coding software where I have to write down the characteristics of the regression I want to perform. A software like SPSS, well, I think it can be done, but it's very difficult. I prefer MATLAB because I can clearly write down my own code. It makes it much easier. And in the current day and era, where I am right now, the university where I work, which is here, Dominguez Hills, has ArcGIS. So I'm taking advantage of the fact that it has official ArcGIS licenses. But at the same time, here I don't have MATLAB. So here I'm using R, which is free software, free mathematics software. But it's essentially the same thing. I take the GIS software, I create the map, the visualization, in this case, departamentos, 31 spatial units, and I request the software to create for me a spatial matrix. A spatial matrix is one where the 31 versus 31 units face each other, and I create the three criteria. Contiguity. If this department is next to the department, put 1. Other case, 0. So it's a matrix of ones and zeros. Second criteria, threshold. If the centroid of this departamento is less than 200 or 250 kilometers, I can create the criteria myself. From another departamento, then 1. If they're further away from 250, 0. Once again, I create a matrix of ones and zeros. And finally, inverse distance. Whatever distance two departamentos have, the largest possible between the entire nation, between the departamento of Amazonas down in the south to the departamento of Guajira up in the north, they have 0. Everybody else have a number in between that goes all the way up to 1. The closest departamentos between them, the centroids, have 1. Everybody else in between have 0.9, 0.8, 0.7, according to how further they are from each other. And then this matrix is a matrix of 0 point something numbers, 31 versus 31. I take that matrix and I bring it into R. So in R, I say land inequality, food insecurity equals constant plus some parameter, rho, times the matrix. I insert the matrix into the mathematics software, times land inequality, the inequality of the corresponding spatial units, perform the regression. The machine creates the regression, creates the residuals. I take the residuals and insert again the spatial matrix. Residuals depending on themselves in space. If the relationship is positive, it means our regression is incorrect. The estimators are biased because they don't respect the assumption of independence of observations. But if I reject the spatial correlation, then the regression is correct. The estimators respect the assumption of independence of observation, so the regression results we are observing are correct, are not spurious. So I move between the two softwares. Like I have mentioned, for example, to Michael before, I'm not a GIS developer as such. I leave that job to the experts. But for 20 years, what I have been doing is I move between GIS and my own mathematics software or econometric software and import from one to the other. I process information in GIS, I perform joins, I perform unions, I create spatial units, and then I bring that back into the regression software and move to the second work environment.
Got it. Thank you. Well, I'm sure our audience will be happy to hear those free words because we do have free access to some of the software. But I don't want to interrupt anymore. Let's get to our next speaker, Mike.
All right. So I am see if I can do this. I have one more poll. I have more than one more poll, but see if it's letting me here. So I'm going to launch another poll as we go into our next speaker. And I will let everybody know that we have access to all kinds of things here on campus. So you just need to reach out and ask if any of these things interest you. I know R integrates well with ArcGIS. I know we had some MATLAB when we, one of our, Dr. Kantosh was teaching spatial statistics using MATLAB. So we have access to all kinds of stuff on campus. The poll that I sent out is your specific area of interest. So obviously we want to know what it is that interests you, and we can probably offer some suggestions or cater these kind of talks more to how GIS is used in what our campus, our area of interest is. So that's the point of this poll. So if you could take a minute and complete those answers, that would be awesome so that we can move forward. And then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to introduce Dr. Parveen Chhetri. He is a assistant professor in the Earth Sciences and Geography department. I don't even know if you guys call it Earth Sciences and Geography or if it's just Earth Sciences now. And he is going to talk about how he utilized GIS to advance environmental justice. So with that, I will kick it off to Dr. Chhetri.
Thank you, Mike, and thank you all of you for attending. So my name is Parveen Chhetri. So I'm associate professor in the Department of Earth Science and Geography, as well as I'm the program director of MS Environmental Science program at campus, as well as I'm the co-chair of recently established Center for Sustainability and the Environment. So today, I'm talking about like how we can use GIS to solve some of the environmental justice issues. So environmental justice means like safe environment for all the people without any race, economic background, or language we speak. So that's the environmental justice. So basically what I'm doing today, I'm giving you some finding from some of the research project we have done at CSUDH through various funder. The first project I'm talking about is climate change and energy related issues. So this project was funded by CSU Chancellor Office. And why this was funded through Chancellor Office is okay, so this graph. So this was the recent study conducted by LA Times. So they found out that the death related to the heat are much more than the government record. So government records that there are only few hundred deaths, but actually there are thousands of people are dying because of the excessive heat. And then when these people are dying, so we need to analyze the special pattern, like which communities are this most death from. Because so when heat wave intensified because of the climate change, so access to the air condition means a lot. So when you think about air condition, probably you think about the buildings. So this is the buildings around our campus. So in the center, that the maroon color indicating our campus, and all this green polygon you see around campus are the building age older than 1970s. So when you think about the older buildings, so it means those buildings are not equipped with air condition. Or if you want to install air condition, then you have to retrofit those buildings. So which means like hundreds of thousands of dollars. So if you are in disadvantaged communities, so disadvantaged communities means if you have certain like economic background, if you are from certain race, ethnic background, speak certain language. So California government or federal government put those people in a disadvantaged communities. So most of these, the green polygons or the older buildings are from disadvantaged communities. Means people living here so either already have economic constraint, so they will not able to afford the air condition. If they are not able to afford air condition, so they have to probably look for other alternatives. And then this is the power outage. So when there will be a climate change, if there will be a heat waves or colder waves, so there is high chance that so there will be a lot of power outage around the communities. If you are in wealthy communities, for example, in this graph, the red means those are the disadvantaged communities, and then probably yellow means those are wealthy communities. If you are from those wealthy communities, when there will be a power outage, probably you already have a generator or backup unit, or you already have a solar panel with a battery storage unit. But if you are in disadvantaged communities, so then probably you don't have solar unit because you are living in very old house, which will not, you will not able to install the solar panel, or you will not have a economic backup to buy a new generator. In that case, you have to look for a cooling and warming center around your community. But if you are already in those disadvantaged communities, probably you don't have right, or if you have some accessibility issues, mobility issues, probably you will not able to go to this warming or cooling center during heat wave or colder waves. Also, you can see, so if you see the special pattern of those cooling and warming center, so they are not well distributed. So a lot of gap in the center where we have a lot of disadvantaged communities. So it means a lot of issues. So in that case, so we are proposing, or we propose in this project, that CSU campuses can be act as a climate refugee, because almost 80 to 90% of the California population live within like 10 to 15 miles of our 23 or soon to be 22 campuses. In that case, CSU campuses can be a climate refugee or energy refugee, because majority of these campuses, so they have battery power or they have a storage unit which can run few days without getting energy from the national grid or the state grid. In that case, our campuses can be a climate refugee. Also, so this is an excellent opportunity for community-based outreach. So most of the time, if you are living around campus, so I have now recently focused on a lot of community outreach, community research. So I feel that like campus community and local people living around campus are a little bit isolated. So that don't feel part of the campus, or that don't feel part of the university. So this is the excellent opportunity to make to good connection with the community by establishing CSU campuses as a climate refugee, which means if there will be energy crisis, energy outage, heat wave, a cold wave, so maybe we can convert our gymnasium, our lot of our like community hall into a community unit where local people can come and stay during heat wave or cold wave. The second project, it was recently funded by California Air Research Board, around 1 million project. So we are trying to understand, so what is the impact of telecommuting on climate change, on land use, as well as the greenhouse gas emission. So telecommuting means you are working from home. So you are not commuting to your workplace. So if you are telecommuting, to measure telecommuting by vehicles mile travel, like how much time you spend on your car or how many miles you travel. So when you are calculating vehicle mile travels, we can use VMT for transportation planning, like where to put more road or maybe more public transportation. Then also we can use VMT or vehicle mile travel for infrastructure development planning, road uses, like how often people are using the road, how busy the road are, as well as the environmental impact of transportation. Because in California, as well as the United States, transportation is the #1 sector releasing greenhouse gas emission. So by estimating the VMT, we can use VMT for a lot of planning purposes. Then when you talk about VMT, so it means driving for us, maybe driving to campus, or on the way, driving to coffee or Starbucks to grab a coffee. And then maybe when you return, while you are filling a gas and then going to the grocery all the way to returning home. So when you add up all those mileage, so that will be your average daily vehicle mile travel. And then when you are telecommuting, so there is chance that if you are not going to the campus, you are traveling a lot of other places. Probably you are going often to grab a coffee or lunch or dinner, or maybe doing a lot of recreation activities. So when you are not traveling to the office or campuses, so in that case, we have to account the rebound effect. So actually we have found that, so when you are telecommuting, so your vehicle mile travel is much more than, so when you are going to the work or going to the campus. And to understand this VMT, we have to understand like in which part of the California has higher VMT. So here in this map, so definitely created using a GIS. So you can see a metropolitan planning organization or MPOs, and which MPOs has the highest VMT. If you check like Southern California Association of the Government, so moderate, and then if you check around the Central Valley, those MPOs or metro planning organization, so they have higher VMT, which means people living in these areas are traveling more for the work. So this is also indicated by this trend graph since 2005 all the way to the COVID era. You can see there around 2010, 12, when we have a depression, so people were traveling less. Then, so we have traveling more right now. And then also you can see the reason around the Central California. So probably in the Central California, we have more suburban, or people are living in more suburban areas, or we are converting rural area into housing complexes. It means people have to travel more for the work or more for the schools. And this research is undergoing. So probably in next year or two, we might have more ideas like how VMT or which part of the California has higher VMT and how this is related to the people economic background or disadvantaged communities. Then recently we completed a project funded by California State University Transportation Consortium. In this project, we actually evaluate, so what is the benefit of parking cash out? So parking cash out means this is a policy or program where like employee offer employees or they give option, don't bring your car to the workplace. Instead, we are giving you a few $100s or use alternative mode of transportation. So basically you are providing internship to your employees for not bringing car to the office spaces. So when you say like parking cash out, so basically this is to encourage your employees to use alternative mode of transportation. It can be railroad, it can be carpooling. So if you check like what is the population demographic around, basically in this project, we analyze two areas, Bay Area as well as the LA area. You can see in Bay Area, almost 20% of the companies, so they provide free parking space to their employees. And if you account all these, and then 65% of these people are driving alone, means around 256K. And then if you only provide 25% cash out to these employees, then you have 64,000 people not coming to the offices or not using their own car. So if you multiply average VMT, so we have around 20 to 25 average VMT in California, it means we are saving a lot of greenhouse gas emission. And for this, we analyze like VMT per household. You can see on your left-hand side, LA region, and on your right-hand side, the Bay Area. So you can see like different areas have different VMT, and especially in San Francisco area, where we have a lot of mass transit system, people can utilize the parking cash out policies, but not in the LA area. So we don't have a lot of well-developed mass transit system. Also here you can see a lot of people in suburban areas, they have high VMT, means they are traveling a lot to their workplace. Also, if you try to relate this VMT with the disadvantaged communities, you can see, especially in the LA region, so a lot of communities, a lot of people from the disadvantaged communities, so they are traveling more. So they have a high VMT, means they are traveling more for the work. So they are already in disadvantaged communities, means they have some economic constraint, and instead, so they have to travel more for the work. So which means not good for them. So then how we can solve this? So probably investing more on mass transit. So maybe that's the only way we can decrease our VMT as well as put less economic constraint on the people living in the disadvantaged communities. Just yesterday, we submitted a $11 million proposal to environmental protection agencies to understand a climate injustice in the West Carson. So 3 years ago, I was not aware that there was a city called West Carson, very near to our campus. Incorporated area, and majority of the people living in these communities are fall under disadvantaged communities. So they have a lot of warehouse, so a lot of chemicals companies around these communities. It means so they are affected by air pollution as well as so they have a lot of less greeneries. So one of the thing we are proposing in this proposal is to put a lot of trees around communities, because we already know climate is changing. Planting a single tree in your backyard or in your front yard will save a lot of energy resources. So research have found that. So right now, if you probably have seen or not, there are a lot of like sensor we have installed around our campus to understand. So what is the temperature difference between canopy area as well as the open area? So there are a few student projects going on around the campus. You may have seen some sensor. So they are continuously recording the temperature. And we have found that in the canopy area, we have during the summer hot days or warm days, the temperature is around 2 degrees Celsius less than the open area. So if you are living in West Carson, So we have a lot of canopy gap. We don't have a lot of trees. So in this project, we are planning to establish around 1,000 trees in the communities so that it will reduce or it will help them to fight with the temperature, or we call urban heat island effect. So this is an ongoing project. So let's hope this will get funded from EPA, and we will able to get chance to work with the West Carson community. And then also recently we are working with City of Carson through Office of Sustainability as well as the Center for Sustainability Environment to map brownfield around campus or around Carson using ArcGIS online as well as story map. So they are providing paid internship for our 2 students. So this project will start next year, and we will work with City of Carson. And this will be a very excellent opportunity for our students to learn GIS as well as work with the community. And before that, if you have not taken any GIS class, so you have to take GIS to learn about what is story map, what is ArcGIS, what is ArcGIS online. And we have several opportunities within our campus. So some are coming through IT, through Mike Ferris, and some are through our department. So we offer a lot of GIS related class, as well as we have geotechnic certificate, so which will help you to get a certificate related to GIS field, as well as we have like major focusing on GIS, geography, earth science. We have graduate program, as well as in 2026. So we are bringing a new undergraduate program, environmental science, focusing on geospatial technology. So there will be a new concentration, so where a student will learn more GIS, like drone mapping, advanced GIS, programming in GIS. So a lot more opportunities coming to our campus related to GIS. If you have any question, you can send me. So my email is here. Thank you.
Thanks, Parveen. That was great. Always good to see that the kind of work that's going on around campus, using these technologies to hopefully make the world a better place. Usually what my motto is, do your part to make the world a better place. Although in this environment, who knows what that means. Anyway, we'll avoid that and stick with geography. Anyway, cool stuff. I guess we'll open it up for a minute or two to see if anybody's got any questions, and then we will press on. So if anybody's got any questions, go ahead and either throw them into the chat box, or if you want to unmute and ask the question. Also, while we have a quiet minute here, let me know if you have any if you need of assistance. I just set up some stuff for field mapping, using some of the field collector stuff for central plant. So if you have any use for that, I've got a little bit of knowledge for that. So,
All right, so I have a question.
go ahead, sir.
All right, so I'm a student there now at I'm actually taking the GIS course with Dr. Chhetri. I also work as a teacher assistant at an elementary school here in Watts, and I'm in charge of the STEAM club as well. So one of the things I wanted to do was figure out if ways or there's resources I can use to start introducing 3rd, 4th, 5th grade kids to same concepts I'm learning, or to GIS, so they can start to at a simplified form of it, so they can start to get that, maybe plant that seed in their head for this. Do you guys have any resources, anything you recommend for that level of like teaching that, at least at that level, 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade?
Yes, I think we have. There is a resources through ISRI as well as the American Association of the Geographer. So they have some like program for schools. I think also Mike has also information.
I was just going to say, I know, having had discussions with the staff at Esri, they have all kinds of resources. So if you want to get either with Dr. Chhetri or myself, outside of this, I will try and turn you on to what the resources I'm aware of, and I'm sure Dr. Chhetri has a whole bunch of other resources that he can turn you on to. But yeah, there's lots of free stuff for schools. They do a lot of educational stuff for free. So yeah, cool company to try and push out the mapping stuff to the youngsters because there's a huge gap in geographic knowledge at that level, I think. All right.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you for the question. That's a good thing to bring up. So as we're moving through here,
No, I think we got one more question.
go ahead.
Hey everyone, my name is Tyler Griffin. I'm a geography student here at DH, and I'm also a student of Dr. Chhetri's. I'm taking GIS with him as well as Edgar, and I see a few other of my classmates present today. I wanted to ask about Dr. Chhetri. You mentioned like I got caught on how large the figure was, like an $11 million proposal of some sort. And I was just curious, like what does it look like on the data sort of compilation side of like putting together all of this transportation data to then present it? Like what is that like? Like just that process. And are you working on a team, or it's not just you, right?
No, actually, we are the PI, but and also our local based community partner, which is Del Amo Action Committee. So they are our community based partner, and there are other like 3 different universities are partnering with us. So this is a very huge project. Let's hope this will fund it. If this get funded, we'll have a lot of it's gonna change a lot of things on campus as well as on the West Carson communities. So we are proposing to establish 1 mile green barrier, planting thousands of trees, shrubs, and then as well as a lot of trees on campus. So this will, and then probably providing a lot of employment opportunities to the local people, as well as there are like 6 interns every year, at least like 20 to 25 CSUDH students will get chance to do internship in this project. So let's hope this will get funded.
Fingers crossed.
Thank you.
All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and
I have a quick question. I was just kind of curious. I know that the whole mention of funding was brought up, and you also mentioned how you were built that proposal and gave the different percentages of subsidizing, like at 25%, 50%, and then 75. Have you identified like those specific in the VTR high population densities? Have you identified specific like companies that would be able and willing to do that, or partner with like specific contracts with companies or ride sharing that would be able to really kind of get funding through that way as a second mean?
Yeah, so I think there is one ride share program on campus. So recently partnered with the Toyota. So they are, I think, putting, I don't know how many cars, around 20, 25 car on campus to promote ride share as well as student to use those vehicle to reduce their VMT. But regarding the private companies, yeah, so our research is mostly on the research. So probably we will share those research data to the California Air Resource Board. So probably they will may able to implement this into some like companies, private organization to promote like or reduce VMT.
Yeah, I think that would be a great opportunity too to just kind of get more funding through and get this project in place. I think that companies would be very incentivized to integrate that as part of their package or offering, which could give them a competitive edge around these cities as well.
Yeah, I think that will be good. Excellent.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for all the great questions. I'm gonna press on here, and we're gonna launch another poll. While we are taking the poll, we could answer those questions. I'm gonna go ahead and introduce our next speaker, Mr. Ben Crane. Works for the City of San Diego Planning Department. He is employed as a GIS management intern, and I am so happy that you could join us. And you offered I guess you were voluntold to be here, but I appreciate you coming here and letting us know your journey. So without further ado, I will let's see. There's a couple of people still answering questions, but I'll end the poll here in a second if you want to go ahead and get started.
Thank you, Michael. Share my screen. Okay, I'll just share my journey with you guys. I'm a student at Cal State San Marcos, so hopefully a lot of you will relate to this. And I want to thank Michael and Professor Chhetri and all the other speakers for inviting me on. But yeah, my intro to college did not start very smooth. It was the COVID year, 2020. Everything was online, and I wasn't really sure which path I wanted to go down. My dad and my brother had been encouraging me to go down the computer science route. And, you know, everybody nowadays say, oh, yeah, get a computer science degree. You'll always get a job with it. So I applied and I got into Cal State San Marcos under computer science. While I was there, I did 2 years of computer science, and I realized it really wasn't, the heavy coding wasn't for me. I did like the coding, but I just couldn't stay on the computer for 9 hours a day straight, you know? And so I decided to take a semester off and go to the local Palomar College, where I took some physical geography classes and a few water technology classes. My original plan was to do the water technology path and maybe become an operator at a local water district. While I was there at Palomar, I got introduced to the internship program at Vallecito's Water District. Here, I got to shadow just about every department at the district, from engineering, collections, which is sewers, to GIS and upper level management. So I got to see how the whole show was run. And what stood out to me was actually their GIS. They were a pretty small water district, and they only had one engineer working on GIS for their entire service area. And I just thought to myself, you know, he needs some help, or you know, if I was the guy who was out in the field and I wanted to know where a feature was, where a fire hydrant was, where a manhole was, I would want that perfectly correct in the system. So I thought, you know, if I ever get the chance to do GIS, I would want it correct. And that's where I kind of started moving away from the actual operator position and thinking about GIS. After my semester at Palomar, I went back to Cal State San Marcos and I changed my major to geography. I'm personally interested in environmental conservation, and so I was originally thinking of doing environmental studies. When I found that the geography program was starting to grow and that GIS was actually going to be one of their main focuses. So I was just in time to hop into the intro to GIS course, and I just, you know, I fell in love with it, and this is where I gained basic skills, and also where I found out about Esri products. I know a few of the other speakers mentioned MATLabs and QGIS, which have been used in the past, but I've really seen that Esri products is definitely going to be part of the GIS future. ArcGIS Online, Pro, Instant Apps, Field Maps, those applications are what I have the most experience in and what I feel is going to be the future. Here are a few examples of maps that I've made during my career at Cal State San Marcos. This one here in the bottom is a business establishment map of New Jersey. This map on the bottom right is a map on the commuters in the Cambridge area, in the greater Boston area. I did some calculations and analysis for one of my projects to calculate the percentage of commuters who commute by car. The reason we did this project was to determine if a new rail line would benefit this area. Based on the number of commuters that commute by car and our findings, we found that it was beneficial to add a new rail station in this area, and they eventually did add the train stop. This other map up in the top right, this was one of my other projects that I created. It's a map of all the dog parks in San Diego County, dog parks and beaches. Here I used SAM GIS data, which I'm sure that a few of you will use, as well as Census Bureau data that I used in this commuter map. So using government data can you hear me? Using this data is very, very useful, and I'm sure that in your projects you will also use Census Bureau and either SAM GIS or some other city database to gather information. But a fun fact about this map in the top right is I ranked every single park individually. So I like doing field work. I went to each of these parks and I ranked them based on their quality, their opening hours, and all of that. My current boss at the city of San Diego actually created a much more robust version of that map using the Python notebook in ArcGIS Pro to automate how they rank and locate each park in San Diego County. So if you do go to the City of San Diego website, go to their Parks and Recreation Department, you can find a master map of all of the parks with all of their features and their rankings. After I continued at Cal State San Marcos in geography as my major, I got an internship at Molten Niguel Water District in Laguna Niguel. This was great for me, especially because I like environmental conservation, and I was in their water conservation department. Here, I did a lot of land use polygons and a lot of planning mapping for them. This is important because every single utility, every single water district, they all need to have their land use and their as-built documents correct. And without this, they'll just lose track of everything. Here's a few examples from that internship. This map up on the top right, this is non-potable water use and potable water use. The purple is the non-potable. I was mainly mapping these areas to make sure that each parcel had the correct water use, and so that if there was any discrepancies with someone's water bill or anything, we can refer to this map to see where they're getting their water from and what they are allotted. This map on the bottom left is an example of their service area wide with all of their water towers and water reservoirs. So this is just an example of how a utility would use GIS in the real world to keep track of all of their assets and just keep their service running at its best. Now to my current internship. After a long summer of not having anything, I was very lucky to get this opportunity at the City of San Diego in their planning department. I've noticed that they are very similar to how a water district operates, but there is a higher level of bureaucracy. So every single city that makes up the greater City of San Diego area sends all of their land use adjustments or changes to us, and my department verifies those changes and implements them into the system and makes it public for the entire city. We do a lot of verifying through the California Environmental Equality Act, or CEQA. We run and add to the SAN-GIS database, and we also use Census Bureau data to verify any population or demographic data changes. My team specifically, my boss specifically, has been trying to implement new programs like FlySmart SD. This is a tool for the average person to use. It identifies and tells you where you can and cannot fly a drone in San Diego County. And it will also give you a link to how you can, if you are a commercial drone flyer or a recreational drone flyer, your different rules and all that. So we're using GIS to provide services to the public, to update the planning map for all of these cities so that everybody can work together and have the most up-to-date system for the city of San Diego. So here's what I would think is the important part. As a student, I know how hard it can be to network or find opportunities to reach out to different companies. Personally, I think that your professors are one of your biggest supporters and one of your biggest resources, so reach out to them first. But Esri and the Esri User Conference has been a great resource for me. Every year, every summer, they have the conference down at the San Diego Convention Center. And this is where different companies, Esri employees, students, everyone can come together and see how the GIS community worldwide is making a difference and show their projects. I personally got to witness a very moving presentation from Jack Dangerman about the integration of 3D modeling into ArcGIS Pro, and also Miami-Dade County, who created an entire 3D model of the city of Miami, which is just unprecedented and amazing to see how GIS can come so far from MATLAB to complete 3D renderings of entire cities. Esri has a great program called the Young Professionals Network. I am currently part of this network. It is not hard to join at all. You just take a little survey on the Esri website and you can join this network. This is a great resource to reach out to other students, to companies, and it looks great on a resume. And then in addition to that, you can even become an ambassador or a content creator. Once you become an ambassador, you are invited to a lot of network events. I've been invited to the Redlands Esri campus, which is their headquarters. It's a great opportunity to meet people who work at Esri. And then you can also, if you have projects that you want to share, there are also opportunities through the Ambassador and Young Professionals Network that allow you to become a presenter at the Esri User Conference. I also hope that you utilize Handshake and LinkedIn. LinkedIn is another big resource to network, and there's my LinkedIn if you want to add me as a resource. I'm always here to answer questions, but yeah, if you have any questions, just let me know.
Awesome, Ben. Thank you so much. Your enthusiasm hopefully is contagious. I love it. I love to see that you're getting all these internships, and I mean that's going to give you I think a big leg up on others. That I'll use a personal experience. I have a son, a mini me, who I tell those same things to every day. You should go talk to your professors. And I'm kind of given you don't know what you're talking about. That's not how it works these days. So thank you for helping me feel better about my advice and the internship thing. I also share that. So good job and excellent stuff. I'll give it a few minutes here. If anybody wants to ask questions, go, and then I'm gonna throw up another poll, and then we'll close it out with a brief demo from me to kind of show what we have going on campus. And so I'll shut up now, throw the poll up, and if you have questions, feel free to ask.
So Ben, I have a question. So there are a lot of GIS students from my class are attending. So GIS is not easy, right? So you need a lot of patience, as well as like you have to devote a lot of time. So what you suggest to this student, like how you overcome those issues, like because you need a lot of patience, as well as you have to devote significant percent of your time to GIS learning, at least at the learning stage. So what suggestion you will give to the students?
So yes, I do agree. You have to definitely be patient, and it does take a lot of work to learn the GIS system, whether it's the coding and using the Python notebook, or whether it's just using the analysis features on whether you're using QGIS or Esri products. One of the biggest resources that I recommend is the Esri Academy. As a CSU student, you get access to free lessons and courses, as well as they're called MOOCs, which are like online courses offered by Esri. They're great resources to learn new skills on GIS, and also just learn about the world, because they're on many different topics from literally any topic you can think of. I'm sure they have a course on it. And then you can also get certifications through the Esri Academy. So if you're going to invest your time into GIS, I suggest that the Esri Academy, or maybe a few online courses through QGIS or something like that, is definitely something that you should utilize.
Thank you, man. Those are very good suggestions for the student.
So I'll jump in here, and I see some similarities in what you've got going on with what I did way back in the day. Is if you really like this stuff, you like, I found out about GIS from a different pathway, in that I just started, I thought I liked maps as opposed to the computer science. And this is, if you go back, there wasn't as much computer. I mean, GIS was there, but it was different at that time, right? So you're going back 20 some years. And so I came about this by an internship with the city of Carson. And I just kind of threw my name out there because I was kind of liking the classes at Dominguez here. So I'm an alum of Dominguez. And they, because of my enthusiasm for maps and being kind of a map geek, they hired me on as an intern at the city of Carson. And the thing I would suggest to students, that if you really like this and you want to do it as a career, you kind of have to, you're probably already geeking out on the technology. It's pretty accessible these days. On campus here, we have access to pretty much all the training. There are some instructor-led courses where you're actually sitting in a classroom with Esri instructors. We have, that's a little bit more limited, but all of the online classes that you can go at your own pace, you can watch all the videos, you can, all that stuff, it's available to you. And when you have free time, at night, or if I had a hydrology project, or any kind of other project, I would try and incorporate a map portion of it into that project. And so I would utilize the resources I had on campus to then roll that into something I was doing in another class. And at the end of my degree program here, I then had all of those projects, kind of like you're showing here in your slides, as a portfolio to show off to employers. So when I would go out, at this point, I didn't have all the digital stuff that was available back then. It was all paper. So I carried around like a paper folder in my hand, and I would say, here's some projects that I've done for my classes. So if I see a lot of what you're doing. Now it's even easier in that you can publish all these things online. You can have your own personal ArcGIS Online account. You could have story maps. You could have all these little pieces that if you really want to geek out and you want to, if you're going to put together a slideshow, you might as well put together a story map. It's the same thing. It's the same amount of work. And then you can share it and you can link people to it and you can have it on, you mentioned LinkedIn. You can have all these things that people can see who you are professionally. And so, yeah, there's some really good opportunities here. And I want to encourage our students and all students that have access to these things to take advantage of them. I know, time is limited, but anything you can do to, incorporate these things into other projects, that's a good strategy to learn how to use them while doing work that you already have to do and that you probably enjoy doing. So, got to throw that out there.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, I definitely encourage people to create a story maps of your journey or create a LinkedIn profile or through the Esri YPN. If you go through the Young Professionals Network, there are discussion boards with GIS professionals, and you can get your name out there. You can get your name to companies that are looking for GIS analysts or entry-level GIS experts. So yeah, just utilize all of the free things that you get as a student while you can.
I don't see any other questions at this time. So what I'm going to do is, hopefully everybody can see my screen. If not, somebody shake their head. All right, so see if I can get this to work. I get to present a lot, so everybody see that okay? Yes, no? Thumbs up, good. I'm not sure if it's because I have so many screens open.
You're not in present mode. You're in regular PowerPoint mode.
How's that?
Yep, there you go.
All right, so inevitably when I do this, it takes away all my other screens. So I'm trying to manage things as well. So help me out, Crystal, if you see something going wrong. All right, so again, everybody, this is going to be my little presentation. I'll try and run through it because we're running short on time. I love quotes, so I'm going to throw some quotes up here. Studying geography is about more than just memorizing places on a map. It's about understanding the complexity of the world. GIS is a great tool to take multiple pieces, overlay them, and understand better the complexities of the world. So again, take advantage of what we have here. And then, nothing can be too bad without a Jimmy Buffett reference. Without geography, you're nowhere. So there you go, a couple of quotes. This has kind of already been talked about, but some opportunities on campus to take traditional type courses. The Department of Earth Science and Geography offers a GIS course, cartography, which I'm assuming utilizes a lot of GIS because that's, not many people are hand drawing maps or doing other things. It's just kind of the way of the world at this point for cartography. And then I'm not sure about remote sensing. If you guys use a lot of GIS, you can, Dr. Chhetri can interject here if he wants. But I know I try to incorporate GIS and everything. So when I did remote sensing, there are a lot of remote sensing tools within the GIS software, but there's also a standalone outside product that we use on campus. It's called Envy. It also has some GIS capabilities, but it's mostly for image processing and remote sensing. There's also in health sciences, there is a class called Mapping Public Health. So they're obviously using these tools to look at communities and public health issues around campus, around the area of our campus and people who are in the healthcare industry. And then I know also in the past, we have done some special topics courses where those things these tools are utilized in those courses to look at anthropology or sociology or all kinds of other stuff. So anyways, keep your eyes out if you're interested in those types of courses. We also have access again to all of the teaching resources that Esri provides. The way to access this is through our hub site. Couple different things. Our hub site is not that easy to find on its own, but if you look at, if you go to our main page and you look at UEPA, or University Effectiveness Planning and Analytics. On that page, you will find Toro Geography, which links to our hub page. You can also just go to the main page and just do a search for Toro Geography. That'll get you there. There's also some library resources. So if you go to our main page and you do a search for GIS, that will take you to the library, and they have some resources there. This is kind of what our hub looks like. I will show you here in a second. Looks like I still have enough time. We have some examples of applications to inspire you, both on campus and off campus. So things like our campus map is posted there, as well as you can find that on our homepage, DH homepage. There are story maps. There are some suggested learning plans, but obviously those are just suggestions. You can do whatever you want as far as learning. And I'm going to reiterate again, take advantage of those learning plans. We have story map examples, videos that talk about how to access these things on our hub page. So I've made a bunch of videos, and I have a bunch of videos that were kind of inspirational things from Esri. Some cool stuff there. If you're curious about different industries that use this, I've linked to Esri's list of industries. And so if you have a specific area of interest and you're like, well, I don't really know how I would use GIS in that specific area, you should take a look at the industry highlights and do that. And then some cool stuff at the very bottom that I hopefully will have a minute here to show you. Oh, I lost my cursor. There it is. Oh, sorry. Yeah, so I'll move on to the next slide. So lots of questions about how all these different pieces relate. And so I know there has been in the past some confusion. And so I just thought I would mention real quick that we talk a lot about ArcGIS Online, which is a very accessible way to access the software. ArcGIS Online is what's known as a software as a service. So basically it's an online platform. You can create maps, you can save data, you can share stuff, but it also links into, if you look at where are my drawing tools? Look down here. We also have desktop and enterprise. Enterprise isn't really accessible to students, but if you wanted to be a professional, then I would more than look into using enterprise systems, because that's what, if you get to larger organizations, they're going to use those things. But the desktop links directly into ArcGIS Online, so they go back and forth. So a lot of times I like having the power of a desktop application. It's much more powerful than the online stuff. And so I do a lot of my creation, a lot of my initial work in the desktop, and then I port it off to online. And online is great for sharing information, creating web apps, all that kind of stuff. And so again, all these little pieces, there's much more to this, but here's kind of the desktop side of things linking to online, and then it allows you in enterprise to do the same thing. So these two things look a lot the same on the user end. And then within there's these development tools that allow you to create web apps, web maps, story maps, all these cool things. So with that,
it seems like we have a lot of opportunities on our campus, and only 2 minutes left to our web here. Thank you for another great GIS Day presentation and so many interesting speakers, Mike.
Yeah, hopefully I'm missing stuff here. I wanted, while I close out, I wanted to kind of share kind of the ooh-ah picture here. Can everybody see that one? That's kind of we talked about 3D stuff. So this is our campus in 3D. I've been working on projects to create what's known as digital twins. So this is kind of the infrastructure underlying our campus, and I just thought I would show that off and then open it up for questions if anybody has any questions for me about how to access these things. What we're looking at here is what's going on below the ground at our campus. So there's tunnels underneath all these things for infrastructure. So we've looked at the large scale. We've looked at countrywide. We've looked at local cities, and now we're taking it down to a micro scale of our campus here and the infrastructure and the rooms. And we can map out things like where there's outlets in the rooms for our space management people, so we can see the room layout. You can see all kinds of cool stuff. So anyway, that's kind of what we have going on campus. And hopefully I've finished sharing, but my PowerPoint's not happy with me. So there. Cool. So I will open it up to questions. If anybody has questions for me,
I do.
go right ahead.
Hi, so I'm a community health major at Dominguez Hills. I was wondering, are there any internship opportunities for people like me to learn GIS or work with it in a
So,
community health perspective?
so from time to time, there are internship opportunities. I am not aware of any on-campus internship opportunities right now this second. But again, all of these technologies are accessible to you. And I'm happy to, sit down and brainstorm and talk about how, based on what your area of interest is, how you might kind of give you some direction on how to utilize these technologies towards that. I mean, you have access to all the stuff, but it's kind of hard to just sit through a class without knowing, okay, so what does this mean to me and how do I use this in my chosen, area of interest? So that's one thing I could do, but I'm not aware of an internship right now, but they pop up all the time. So what I usually suggest is to kind of start doing some searches for, do a search of GIS and community health, and do a search for, mapping community health issues, that kind of stuff. If you're just looking for applications and who might be doing it, and then you can keep an eye on maybe employers and industry leaders that are using the technologies and see what they have going on. Does that help? Does that answer the question kind of?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And stay in touch. Let me I can try and help guide you, but I don't have any, I don't have a direct pipeline. I wish I had somebody I could say, yeah, go talk to Joe Schmo, but I don't have that right now. Any other questions about GIS per se, or how we use it on campus, or maybe how to get started? Again, the best thing to do is go to our hub site to get kind of browse around. And if you have, my contact information is on there. And I'm happy to, further the conversation if you have specific questions. I'm assuming with the quiet peacefulness that everybody's over it. Or not over it, but we're probably overwhelmed more than anything. All right, well, I don't see anything.
All right.
So we'll go ahead and close out the event. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Thanks to our
Thank you.
presenters for coming here and giving their time to share the information. And thank you all the attendees for spending your time with us to learn about these technologies and what's going on with them. So appreciate you, and have a good day, and hopefully we'll be in touch.
Thanks, Mike. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you, Crystal.